Hello and welcome to Note to File, a clinical research podcast.
A collection of interviews, candid commentary, and general nonsense for the clinical research community.
Check us out at notetofilepodcast.com.
And now, without further ado, on to the show.
Hey guys, welcome to another Note to File. How's it going, Denali?
It's going pretty well, actually. It's been a busy-ish week, I guess. There's been a lot going on in the news at least.
A lot going on what?
In the news, just like the clinical trials space. I don't know. So it's been interesting. I mean, like none of it's like super exciting, but it's been interesting to watch.
It's usually not that exciting.
It's a lot of earnings calls, lots of data breaches.
Yeah, we love data breaches.
Have you ever been a part of a data breach?
Not to my knowledge, but there was recently at least I don't know how big of a health system it is here, who had a fairly big, they were hacked, and it was like ransomware type situation. So a lot of people were affected. Luckily, I don't trust doctors, so I don't go to the doctors. So I'm not in any. I'm a Christian Scientist. People don't know this.
This is something you learn something new every day.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I don't know a lot about Christian Science. There used to be a Christian Science reading room near where I used to.
I don't either. I think that maybe they don't go to the doctor and think that they just get healed by prayer. But I could also be making that up. So
you might be. I don't know. I feel like maybe we should Google it. Isn't that like Jehovah's Witness has that? Like they won't allow like blood transfusions and stuff.
I mean, you got me there.
I feel like there's some of those.
Apparently, Christian Scientists do believe in prayer-based healing.
Huh. Positive. Power to...
And that's what I am. So, anyways, no, I don't think I've been. That was quite a diversion. I don't think I've been part of like any data breaches that I'm aware of. Who did you mention? Who had one?
Amgen had one. It happened on Friday. They came out Friday. Had to do they're doing the analysis. Obviously, it came out that it was it's a material breach. So it has PHI and IP that was stolen. Not just other information, like patient data was affected. So they're still evaluating it. Something, I don't know, their cloud some cloud platform was hacked. And Novo had one earlier this summer too. Similar concept, ransomware, where they refused to pay.
I wonder what are people doing with this data that I mean, if assuming that there are hacks, I guess, because I'm sure some of it's not necessarily hacking, but
well, when Advara had their massive data breach, I don't know, whenever it was a couple of years ago, and all the employee information was leaked, so all of their social security numbers, salaries, all of that shit was breached, and didn't settle. It ended up on the black web, and so they basically said, we're going to release this, and once you release it, it's available for folks to use, I guess. So I think it's more of a threat where they threaten to release the information out there, and then you're exposed, and people who then have malicious intent could use it for identity theft, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair enough. Although, yeah.
So I think that's kind of the game where it's it's a wholesale leakage of data that you could then.
Don't they pretty much have to offer surveillance of your credit and stuff?
Yeah, they will. They'll give you a subscription to some. I also have LifeLock because I was part of that data breach and I want at least some awareness of this shit. But yeah, it's we'll offer surveillance or whatever, but I don't know what the case is for this Amgen one. I think it's still very new and very happening, so we'll see what happens.
Fair enough. Today's August 4th.
It is
National Chocolate Chip Cookie Day. I feel like there's been
a lot
of the days are cookie related.
There's a lot of cookie days.
So whoever works, I mean, Big Cookie is doing a good job of getting their name out there. And that's weirdly a bunch of Canadian related days, and literally one of them just says civic holiday, which is apparently a Canadian thing. It unites communities across Canada every first Monday of August. But come up with a is there a more nondescript day named than a civic holiday? So I don't know. I've never heard of this, but I'm curious. I mean, if anyone's listening from Canada, I'd be curious to know. Like, do you celebrate civic holiday? Do you get the day off, or like?
Is that like a Memorial Day or like a Labor Day or something?
Uh,
Or
it's not all that. Doesn't give a ton of information as to the origin of civic holiday. I don't know
like
who's
someone
trust.
gave up.
I don't know who's trust this like website that I get these off of, but make some nice banter at the beginning. So enjoy civic holiday, Canadians.
If you are in Canada,
our neighbors to the north.
our hat,
Are they? Is that how we're referring to them?
or we're Baja, Canada. No, I guess depends on your perspective.
That maybe that feels more accurate somehow. Yeah. So what's exciting?
I don't know. I mean, I was reading an article today. So like a scroll through article or whatever, and it was like you should this is how you should lose weight article. It was based on a scientific review article, so not a clinical trial, but a review of other literature and data. And the sentiment is that if for a majority of Americans, if you are sedentary, like a majority of the Americans, you should actually lose weight by not cutting calories and cutting protein. And I was like, this seems so counter to everything I've ever read, where it's hey, you need more protein.
I don't
reduce
know.
Caloric load.
I don't know about, and again, look, if you want to lose weight, eat less calories than you burn, right? That's really
right. Well, that's where I was like,
that's the whole equation. But I also think I saw an ad for a protein, like alcoholic drink the other day, like protein water. At some point.
Well, like Starbucks has their protein milk boost thing that you can do now,
like how much protein do you need? Unless you're like a bodybuilder, which most of us are not. Do you need an insane amount of protein all the time? I feel like this is like another weird trend where everything is like eat all the protein.
Well, it was like the Atkins, like where go through with like cut your carbs. You can't have
That's
carbs.
More about cutting carbs. What are you going to replace it with? You got to replace it with something.
Well, then there's like fats and like whole dairy products and all of that stuff too, right? But it was, I don't know.
Nutrition science is like the worst field, I feel like, because it's always just all over the place. There's so many things that are poorly interpreted or designed poorly, or just bad advice.
Yeah, well, I was reading this thing, it was a couple months ago, but it was about like intermittent fasting and how they've done all of this research on intermittent fasting. And all of the research started in the Great Depression, because they had noticed that people were doing something. Then they actually started doing trials after the Great Depression on the benefits of intermittent fasting. They only tested it in men, and then they realized if you do intermittent fasting as a woman, especially a woman who does any level of athletic activity or exercise, it can be negative for you in regards to the effects it has on sleep and health and all of that.
A lot of complicated hormonal differences between men and women.
Well, so that was the article I had that I want to talk about today, which talks about it recently came out that it was now 67% of trials now appropriately, I have it pulled up, appropriately have progress in clinical trials. Women are now more included in clinical trials based on what they're seeing. And they talk about how it proportionally it's based on disease state. And so if the percentage of women in the trials is proportionate to the disease burden within men and women. And so we're seeing now this more appropriately in and again, it talks about different therapeutic areas has to have different indications or what have you.
Sure.
But the whole concept is, first off, progress, right? Back in, until 93, women weren't mandated to be included in clinical trials. And now 67% are appropriately included, which is also kind of funny that we're celebrating that. And that's still a third of the trials don't meet that criteria.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, like the point and like the theory of the article was we're including women, but are we actually like studying them differently? And it's to that point with like intermittent fasting, like we're including women, but if we're lumping all the results together and we're not looking at the gender differences or the sex differences and how women are experiencing disease or experiencing treatment, are we actually studying the women and understanding it? Or are we just sort of shoving it all together?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, like at the site level, we don't know like what kind of stratification might be happening with the data later, like what
Yeah.
they're doing with the data. We're just enrolling patients. I did see like we did a call, like a pre-study call yesterday. That one of the first I think I've seen where it really made a strong mandate that they needed over 50% of the participants to be female. It's not a, I mean, I don't think it's a disease state that's very tilted one way or the other. So I just thought it was interesting that we actually saw that included. But I mean, and then, but though, if that were the case, though, don't you think there would be some trials that are like, because at some point, I guess you can stratify the data after the fact. But don't you think there would eventually be like targeted trials that are like just enrolled women?
Well, and I think that's what this is kind of getting at, where it's like we're now including them because they have to at certain levels,
Yeah.
and like they have to look up the data in certain ways. But it's like you're including them, you're just counting them, you're not actually studying them specifically.
Right.
And that's what this article got at. Like we're making progress. And again, it's interesting because back in the 70s and whatever, like women were excluded, like explicitly excluded from research because they added, if you were like of childbearing age or in menopause, because there was so many more complexities that were added with the changes in biology associated with those. And so they excluded it because probably from a science perspective, it was harder to draw correlations. But those are exactly the things you think you would want to study and to actually understand the female experience in disease burden and treatment.
Do you think there's any reason why there's like a so much of a disparity now? I mean, we at the site level again, like I'm any ad that gets answered or any patient on a list, I'm calling them. I don't care what they are,
Yeah.
man, woman, whatever, racial background. I'm obviously only able to, capture whatever is in my immediate vicinity. But like, do women tend to not participate at a higher rate, or like I wonder if there's any kind of data on that?
So there is, and they looked at a lot of when they started looking at it, they started looking at it as far as like I have to find the article again. It was a while ago, but it looked at reasons why women weren't participating, and it started looking at a lot of like the trials aren't designed for women who need to have childcare, or trials aren't designed. So it was like started looking at like more like the almost more socioeconomic factors, and it really boiled it down to like less gender and more socioeconomic impacts that they would have on it. Like if you can't provide childcare, or when are trials available, like. And again, it tracks down to more like stereotypical gender norms on who's doing what. So I don't know. I think it's an interesting concept to dig into on why that would be, because I think like there's a fairly large representation in the clinical trial space, especially in sites with women, right? Like a lot of
it's been a while since I've seen statistics, but I remember maybe a SOCRA, what's the word I'm looking for, assessment or survey they did. I thought it was like damn near 80%, if not more, like were women.
Well, that's the big thing
site level
with like racial and minority disparities. Like part of the concept is being like if people are going to seek treatment from people who are like them. But I also think so like having like there's research done on like if you have folks of particular race and ethnicities engaged in the clinical trials teams, that's a way to increase diversity within the actual study populations. But I also think healthcare in general tends to be like care fields tend to be like nurses, right, and MAs tend to be more associated with women, like childcare, health, like nursing. All those are more like historically more gendered
Yeah.
into female. So it makes
Sure.
sense that you'd have a lot of research folks falling into that realm
But then
that are
wouldn't you
women.
but then you would think you'd have a higher participation of women.
Yeah, but I feel like that could get into some really weird social dynamics where people are expecting women to be caretakers of men and women. And so it's
Sure.
less of like I'm seeking care from someone who's like me versus this is the role of the person who should be
Yeah,
providing care.
sure.
And so it's less of like I'm doing it because a woman is there, but it's like women are nurses. And like that's who cares for everyone. So I wonder if there's like a breakdown in that. But it is interesting. Like I don't know why there would be that. Like regard unless we're purposefully doing it. But also it's probably access to healthcare in general and how women approach like I wonder if it's like a larger schema of like women's experience in healthcare.
Yeah, maybe. I would also think, and again, this is completely pulling this out of my ass, but I mean, women not access healthcare at a higher
I think
rate
they
than men?
do, but if you look at like the studies on like time it takes for women to get a diagnosis, it's
Sure.
ridiculously skewed. Like endometriosis is like this classic example where you hear
Oh,
constantly like it
yeah.
takes like 7 years for someone to get a
Sure.
diagnosis. You go to the doctor and it's like you could fucking have like had a massive car accident, end up in the emergency room. They're like, when's the date of your last menstrual cycle? Like it's not fucking
Right, right.
relevant. Or it's like, oh, it's your hormones. Like it constantly gets it's constantly like stereotyped into something and then never actually like taken seriously. So the female experience in healthcare can be skewed at times. Because we it's sort of like it's a chicken or the egg scenario. We're not studying it. And so the care we have is not designed for women. So the female experience in the healthcare world is not as relevant to our lived experience. But then like we're not so we don't participate as much potentially in that way. I don't know.
Oh,
We're not
I mean,
studying it. I don't know.
be curious to dig down deeper into some of that.
Um,
Be interesting.
yeah.
But yeah, again, I noticed literally this week a study that called that out, like in the slides, as part of the site selection, that like we need at least more than 50% female population, which again I found sort of interesting. I've seen a couple of studies throughout the years that are like more sort of targeted, even in certain racial demographics, but it's pretty rare. It's pretty rare.
Well, I also feel like to your point, like you kind of got to know who you're talking to, right? Like you're in Oklahoma City, you're going to have a very specific type of population,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Couldn't be different than like Atlanta or Seattle, right?
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, probably not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know, but surely it's not that much from a gender perspective.
From a gender
like,
perspective,
yeah,
I would imagine not.
But yes,
like,
no. Otherwise, yes. Racially, yes. We have a much smaller. We have a lot smaller diversity, frankly, in Oklahoma than most places, unless you're talking about Native American population or something like that.
Right. You'd have a specific population. Makes sense. So was this called out in like the selection, or is this something that was like when did they introduce this to you guys?
Yeah, like in the middle of the slide deck, like that they were going through.
For like was this like a selection or was this SIV or what?
No, this was like early selection essentially.
Interesting.
So yeah, a lot of selection visits and a lot of SIVs lately, and I will say that SIVs have not gotten any better over the last probably 10 years. They're the same damn thing.
I was gonna say, so what is the SIV experience these days?
I mean, it depends, but it's mostly, at the very least, it is a monitor showing up to your site, plug them into the TV, plug their computer into the TV. They pull up a slide deck, and you'll see like, one of 328 or some shit. And you're like, oh God, here we go. And then it really comes down to like how, look, I try to, as quickly as possible, find a way to let the CRA know that like we're not idiots, or try to give them the impression that we have some level of like experience and understanding, because sometimes they will not skip things, but they'll sort of blast over some basic concepts that have to get covered again and again, in these slide decks.
Like what are some of those things that they're still
literally everyone has several slides about what constitutes an AE. Which I'm like, dude, I know untoward medical occurrence. I mean, almost everyone can literally read remember the definition, but like,
Yeah.
depending on your monitor, they might be like, here's an AE. Here, you read this. You don't know what it is. Let's go to the next slide. We have to report SAEs in under 24 hours. Blah blah blah. The same stuff that gets said in every SIV slide deck, but there's still plenty of CRAs who insist on reading word for word the entire slide deck to you. And
Isn't
then,
that just like presentation 101, regardless of the topic?
I mean, I don't think they care. They're just there to check the box of getting
Well,
it done. And it is that, has the site been appropriately trained? Yeah, we can say because we read them all the
so,
shit we were supposed to read them.
but that begs the question, because then that is just checking a box. And so we're confusing compliance with operational readiness. So
No,
it's
and correct. And I will say, like, again, occasionally we had one of the several we had recently. They did a really good job of this is another element that sometimes happens. You've got your CRA on site. Well, there's someone from the sponsor or someone from another CRO that they're partnered with also on the call. So you've got people from multiple representations, happening. But a lot of times they'll come on and they'll talk to the doctor about the background of the medication and mechanisms of action and previous study results, which, depending on your PI, they may not give a shit or they might be extremely interested in it. It just kind of depends. But they did a really good job of breaking out, like, okay, we've done this stuff here. Now let's talk about, like, what is the patient flow at your clinic? How is that going to fit into the, which I'm like, first of all, like, we should have done this probably way back during site selection, not when we're here to activate a trial. Because what if we come up with a problem that we're like, this doesn't really work? It's kind of too late. But I don't think there's nearly enough time carved out for exactly that in these SIVs.
Yeah.
Like, look, I don't, we've all do GCP training. We have to do it. You don't need to go through GCP again. I don't think you have to. I mean, they all seem to also still hit on a bunch of elements of GCP, PI responsibilities. We know what they are. Again, it's part of GCP that we have to do. Don't make us do it again. Hit me with the protocol specifics and let's talk about how this is going to actually work in the specific clinic that you're working in, because they're all different. And that's really going to determine whether or not this works. There are studies that literally just by the virtue of like how the clinic we're partnered with does things has made it extremely easy for us or nearly impossible for us. And at the end of the day, we're not going to probably change it. We're not going to have the leverage or
ability
power to change it. They're going to do the things that make sense for them in terms of the flow of their practice. But sometimes you don't know that until it's too late, and then you're like, well, whoops, like this looked easy, but they actually do this to all their patients, which means we can't enroll a single one because that disqualifies them. But we didn't pick up on that small thing somewhere, and we didn't go through it, with enough of a fine tooth comb as a team.
Because I see no reason for the as they stand, where it's like I stand up there and I read you a PowerPoint deck. Why does that need to be on site then? Why does it need to be a meeting?
They still want to look. They want to see your drug storage, which again they probably saw at site selection.
Site right. That's what I'm saying.
Look, again, I don't understand. Like, again, it's funny to me to see like the dichotomy on somewhere like LinkedIn and then what happens at a site, and like all these things that people are like, all these things can happen and you can do things this way and you can do things that way. But at the end of the day, at the site, we're dealing with CRA. Most CRA, let me walk that back a little bit. A lot of CRAs are great. Love them. Great people. Well, they're all great people. I love all CRAs. best people. Good people, great people. But
thanks for that.
There's at least some percentage that's not insignificant that I feel like they see their job as like how to bust you on not doing something exactly by the absolute letter of the law. And that makes a lot of sites incredibly risk averse. I mean, again, it's not a secret. I've had this conversation with a lot of other people, like especially institutional sites, like you're actually a lot more incentivized to like not enroll patients because you're not going to get in trouble or get yelled at. And you can almost always find a way to exclude a patient. And if I'm a coordinator at a university and I'm making whatever, or around here, it might be 35 or 40 grand a year. Do you think I'm gonna like stick my neck out to get yelled at by the PI, by the chair of the department, by the CRA, by the sponsor, if I'm not like super sure and I have good PI support, which is something that I also want to talk about at some point. I made a comment about this a few weeks ago that I guess we'll talk about PIs, the importance or lack thereof of
Mm.
the PI and the on the team. Um, no, and in fact, I'm going to find something obscure. I'm going to find something in the records that makes me say, I pre-screened him, did my best. Sorry, no good.
Hmm.
And I've talked to reps and CRAs where I feel like this is a thing that happens not uncommonly across institutions. It's different, obviously, as we're seeing more private sites because they got to
Well,
make
and
that money.
I would say even institutions now still are going to have a lot more reliance on industry funds.
It's a good point. That's a fair point. But even then, like when I worked in the neurology department, like we did trials, industry trials. Not a ton of grant funded, but I felt like there was no pressure for us to enroll patients. Like financially, we were mostly subsidized by like the department itself as a
Yeah.
small like research arm of that department. So whether I enrolled 100 patients or zero, nobody gave a shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would say a lot of times in those situations, I would say, as I've seen organizations, whether it's the academics who have subsidizing through grant funding, or if it's like at a hospital who or health system that is doing research almost more from an advertising perspective, to be able to tell their patients that they're doing research and to be able to tell providers and incentivize providers to come to be like, look, we're a local health system, but you should come to us, not the hospital down the road, because we have research opportunities. Now, the investment and the seriousness of those is, to your point, generally they're not profitable. Generally, they're not a focus. But they use it to say they do research. They get a couple of trials, but yeah, it's not like a much of an incentive
Yeah,
to like,
yeah, yeah.
enroll. Um,
Yeah, it's weird. But again, I mean, they're sponsors and are going to keep going to academic sites regardless of how well they
yeah,
enroll.
yeah.
So like it's again a weird. Maybe that's changing a little bit, but I don't know. I think it's
Oh,
an
and I think they
interesting.
will because there still is like the infrastructure in place. Like it didn't fully dismantle. Whereas,
Fair.
um, but it is interesting to your point, like where. But I also wonder to your comment about like the CRAs, their goal is to like find the thing that's wrong. Is that because of how CRAs at large are judged on performance? You know what I'm saying, like, if they
I
have
don't.
to
Yeah,
find
and
they have to find certain amount of things, or if something comes up later, it's their fault if they don't catch it.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I don't
where is
know. I think it's a. I was thinking it's like think about the type of person who wants to be like a CRA. Like, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean like they're probably somebody who likes to be they're a rule follower.
Mhm.
But nothing wrong with that. Again, we're in a regulated environment. And I'm not saying that sites are trying to get away with murder and CRAs are, you know, busting them. And I'm not saying CRAs are even being always over the top, but I feel like I mean, again, read FDA guidance. Look how much
Yeah,
area there is to interpret, like how to do some of that
yeah,
stuff. And those are conversations that some CRAs will have, and they'll have it in good faith. And there's some that are just want to
mm,
shut you down. And I think the problem I see are vendors who are like, do it this way, do this. You can do this as a site. You're the boss. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not the boss. The boss is the guy paying my check. And that is the sponsor who hired this CRO to tell me what to do. And so I can pretend like I'm a tough guy and can do all the things that I want to do. And yes, there's some room there. But at the end of the day, if they say, we don't like what you're doing, please stop enrolling patients or we're going to shut you down or we don't like you, we're not going to bring you more studies, then that's not good for me. Just to what? Just to, say that I got to make a choice like for pride, like again,
yeah.
it's one thing
Well,
to not do studies that aren't good for you as a site, but it's another thing to like unnecessarily try to like assert your will when it's unnecessary, if that makes sense.
no, it does, and I mean, the thing that comes to my mind in this, like, example of this would be, like, e-consent, um, where it's like, "Hey, like, use this." It's like, "Oh, you technically can," but then there's, like, other, like, things you would have to go through to do it, but they're saying, "No, we can't use it." But I think the piece that I'm thinking about here is like there also is a disconnect because I've talked to folks who are saying, "Hey, I was talking to someone who was a CRA at major sponsor, and they said you can't use this. Like we
Hmm.
won't allow this." And it's like, But then if you go talk to like the leadership at that sponsor, they're like, absolutely, we would allow this. And so like there is breakdown and dysfunction or silos to a certain extent, even within these pharma companies. Like, yes, they're paying you, but the person who's paying you, the executive leadership team, is saying, yeah, no, absolutely, we love this. But there's a breakdown between what then is executed on the individual level.
Well, and I think as a site, you then have to sort of make a series of decisions because you're like, great, I'm gonna jump over the CRA's head. They're gonna be pissed that I did that, and they're gonna be at my site every 6 weeks. Do I want to like create that, or do I just want to be like, you know what, cool, fine, we'll do the thing the way you want to do it? Again, as long as it's not like, absolutely killing me, it's probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
We'll get it done. And yeah, again, but it's those series of disconnects. And again, I've worked with vendors and they're like, no, just go tell them that you're going to do this. I'm like, why? Why do I want to fight that battle? This is not so good for me that like I need to go piss off somebody. This is a small industry. I mean, it's big, but it's small.
Yeah.
And if they're going to be my monitor for the next 3 to 5 years on a long-term outcomes trial, like we need to be buddies.
But are they really going to be your monitor for 3 to 5 years?
Well,
or are you going to get a couple
it's
new
uncommon.
ones?
Yeah, it's uncommon that that's the case. But I've seen plenty of monitors who, they left ICOM and now they work for IQVIA, and now they're my monitor on a different study at a different CRO. I mean, that kind of stuff happens too.
Yeah.
Or they get promoted to something, and maybe they have an impact on whether I get selected as a site.
Yeah.
So it's at the end of the day, again, this is like feels sacrilegious sometimes, but like we're essentially, customer service as a site. Like you were hiring us to do a job, and I've complained the opposite before. So it depends on what day of the week you ask me, but I feel like if you hire me to do a job and you want it done a particular way, like that's like, yes, I can give my opinion about how I think this might be a better way, but if you are saying no, I'm paying you do it, please do it this way, I'm going to be like, all right, cool.
But like, I take my car to the mechanic to have them fix the car. I'm paying them to do a job. I'm sure shit not telling them what to do or how to do it, because I have no business doing that. And I feel like even if I thought I did, and I guess maybe if I thought or had like some amateur mechanic experience and I came in and I was like, hey, I think it's this, they might listen, I guess.
Yeah,
but
like, I think a similar but different, like if let's say you hire a home builder to build you a house and you're like, I want it to be 3 bedrooms. And like, we actually think 4 bedrooms would be better. Like, yeah, but I want a 3-bedroom house and I'm paying you to build me a 3-bedroom house. You know what? We're going to build a 4-bedroom house. You're going to love it.
I would absolutely go with a different builder.
Of course you would. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
yeah,
it's somewhere in between, probably.
Well, right. But if I was like, hey, I want you to build it this way, and I want you to not build it to code, and I want you to like add this here, use these materials, and you're like, well, they're like, no, those materials are really bad. It's not going to hold up. It's going to fall apart within a couple of years, and you're going to come to me and complain.
I mean,
do they still? That's like
that's often sort of
the case.
More accurate analogy, right? Is the like, yeah,
where I'm like, hey, I want you to build my house out of straw. This is what I want.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, but really, you should probably use, bricks, right? Like, which 3 little pig do you want to be? But then it blows down, and I'm like, well, you built me a shitty house.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
So we're the 3 little pigs. That's where we're at.
Yeah, basically. I feel like that's a whole other. We can go on that analogy for probably in a lot of different ways.
Who's the big bad wolf?
Probably depends on what side of the thing you're on. All right, I think we're done here.
Wrapping it up for today.
We may or may not be back on Thursday.
Cool.
That's all I got. We'll be back. We'll definitely be back on Tuesday, though.
Tuesday. It'll be a different time next Tuesday.
Okay. New time. Same place.
It'll be an hour earlier. So 11 Central.
Okay.
Next Tuesday.
Stay tuned.
And maybe Thursday.
And maybe Thursday. You just never know. See, that's the hallmark of a good program, is that you don't exactly know when it's going to come on.
I've heard that. I've heard that that's something people look for. Or
Yeah.
when the audio will be
It's like
released.
it's different now. It's
Any
YouTube.
of it.
It's like Netflix. You don't like wait every week for a new episode. You can just watch as many as you want or not.
I was trying to explain that to my kids. Like, we were at a hotel and the TV was
Mm.
on, and they're like, "No, I wanna watch something different." And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Like
"That's
you just have to watch what's there.
that's not how this works. Wait till you find out about commercials."
Oh yeah, yeah. It is a whole different ball game.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, we got a
Awesome.
comment here at the end. Hey, Barbara. You appreciate a site pressing on what is best practice. And again, I don't think sites shouldn't. I think they should by all accounts. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes down to me and a CRA who disagrees with me, who's going to go escalate whatever problem I'm making to the team above, I don't really have a leg to stand on at the end of the day. And
Well,
then
what
it's like, I'm running 30 studies. Like, how many arguments do I want to have with how many study teams? Like,
I get that, but to flip this though, I think, like, is there something that truly is best practice that could make the industry better? If we all are not saying anything because it's the hard thing to do, then we're never gonna get better.
yeah, I think it's still too fragmented to say. And to my point earlier, like I've got two different cardiology groups I'm working with. Uh, they do things very differently, and honestly, the best practice is different at each place. Like in terms of how we work with them. Now, maybe some of the tools, software, things like that could be the same, but even that's always going to be. We're never going to be like aligned on that. I was having a conversation with someone the other day that I don't think there should be an EDC. I think if I should be able to like put things on paper, take a picture of it, and send it to the sponsor, and be like, you deal with it.
Mhm.
Before EDC, they used to come take the paper away and someone else filled it out somewhere. Now we have to do it for some reason. Now we have to do, anyways, that's a whole nother conversation I'm not going to get into.
We'll talk about that maybe next Tuesday.
Okay. We will.
And
All
then
right.
you have something actually that
Oh, yeah.
tomorrow, right? That you're talking
Yeah.
about?
So tomorrow I'm doing a webinar with the AMRC, Alliance of Multi-Specialty Research Corporations. All words that I like a lot. Really a discussion about private equity's role, or I guess lack thereof, in clinical trial sites. Seems to be kind of focused on could private equity affect quality at clinical trial sites? I think I was chosen as the token dissenter. So it's me and like a private equity dude and I feel like everyone else kind of supports, the idea of private equity, which is perfectly fine. Should be an interesting conversation. I made a post asking to like get some anecdotes from people, which nobody really responded to on the thread, but I got probably 10 messages like in the background,
Okay.
which was interesting to hear from some people. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Cool. Well, I will tune in. I'm fascinated. I mean, I'm fairly aligned with you on my view of private equity and anything healthcare related, quite frankly, besides just being a division of that.
Pretty much everyone I talked to, I feel like was like, but I'll
I'm interested to
touch on
hear
that
how it goes
tomorrow.
because those are very similar conversations that I've had with folks as they've gone through. I mean, like those changes as sites. So it'll
Yeah.
be fascinating to hear how the conversation goes.
Well, tomorrow I don't know exactly what time. I'm very bad at when it comes to. It looks like it's at 1:00 Central, so 2 Eastern.
Okay.
I feel like I have to say things in Eastern time. That seems like the standard,
I
right?
always do too, and I don't know. I don't know if I like it, but I do the same thing. I'll always provide times in Eastern.
You know what? No more. Everything is Central time.
That's where the cool kids live.
Hey, Barbara, you can find the links on LinkedIn if you look. I reposted it, I think, either today or yesterday. If you find my LinkedIn, I'll try to repost it again between now and then. But yep,
Awesome.
check it out, and we'll be back. If not Thursday, we'll be back Tuesday.
Sweet. Talk to you later.
Cool. Later. Thanks for listening to Note to File. We're committed to continuing to bring you independent and unfiltered coverage of the clinical trial industry.
We want to talk about what you want to hear. So if you have something on your mind, hit us up at notetofilepodcast.com.